All right. It looks like we are live. This is going to be a interesting one. It's always interesting going live, trying to build something, especially with AI, because you never know sometimes what you're going to get. Um, so we'll get started here momentarily and let people filter in. But the goal is to build a chat, kind of like this one right here, where you can chat back and forth with your LLM of choice. And it's going to be multi-step, meaning the first process, because I'm a designer, I like to handle the design myself of most things. We're going to be hopping into Figma, and we're going to design like a real quick chat UI, maybe something like this even, and then get it set up properly to be translated to the browser with the Figma MCP server, which is something I've covered in the past on this channel. There are specific tutorials. Just do a channel search for that. And then the second part is going to be hopping into Cursor. Once we use Cursor to get it into the browser, the front end, HTML, CSS, using Cursor to make it function, meaning getting that thing that we designed in Figma working in the browser with our LLM of choice, which will likely be ChatGPT like 4.0 probably. And we'll be able to have a conversation back and forth with the AI chat within the context of this little chat panel that we're going to design and integrate. So looking at some comments here. So Joy, what is up? How are you doing? Kevin, always one of the first people to respond in every stream that I have, even if the streams are like separated out like months upon months, like they typically are. Very nice to see you guys. All right. I will be checking back momentarily with the chat here just to see what you're all saying. I have two monitors up. The chat's over here on the right side. But the main thing we're going to be working with is this monitor right here. How do I get out of there? Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do, and mind you, this is all from scratch. We are working here in Figma. That's the first step. So Figma, you can create an entirely free account at Figma. You can use figma.com in the browser, their web-based app, or you could download the desktop app, which is what I use. That unlocks certain things like fonts and stuff, and the Figma MCP server itself. So I'll show you how to get that stuff set up and working. But first, we're going to design. We are going to design the little chat app, right? So now, by the way, I should stop real quick. This might be the point where people with non-technical backgrounds, vibe coders or whatever, or might think to themselves, why the hell would you design it when I could just ask AI to design it for me, right? Maybe using Shad CN components or some library, and it'll look good, right? Well, when we get into, more experienced, in-depth development, especially as it pertains to the aesthetics, like the branding and identity, you want to be able to handle that stuff yourself. And it's not that difficult. It's actually fun being able to say, hey, I can control the design as well. So I'll be showing you how to do that in the context of this simple project. So let's go ahead and get this started. So first, I'm going to hit the frame, F key, frame tool. And over here, I can zoom up. You'll see settings like presentation, all this stuff. I like to use presentation, not even desktop or tablet. I just like using 16:9, 1920 by 1080, like my YouTube thumbnails or videos. And that way we just have a nice, big old beefy canvas to work on, as if we have a browser that's maximized. That's how I like to design first. Some people say you're supposed to design first mobile. It depends on the app. But in most cases, if it's supposed to work on desktop, I design the desktop first. Okay. By the way, all this stuff is taught at designcourse.com. Shameless plug. Now, first question, what color are we going for? What should the background be, right? Like that's like one of the first things that I ask myself, is this going to be like a light mode or dark mode? Well, it's up to us. We can make this thing whatever the hell we want. Just to make it a little bit easier on your eyeballs, maybe we'll go dark mode with this. So let's just choose like a blue. I kind of love like dark desaturated blue. Here's another one of my gripes. Sometimes, designers, they might have like this background that's this color, but you can't even see like kind of where it starts, right? Based on the canvas right here. So what I do, if I have a dark mode, I'll take this canvas color, right up here, the page color, and I'll make it complement it, but I'll make it lighter so we can really see where this design begins and ends. Okay, so that's cool. Right there, I'm happy with that. Next, we're going to use the frame tool again. F key, left click, drag, get ourselves like a little chat window. All right, now this doesn't have to be a chat window that is like, compartmentalized like this. It could be a big, large chat window that consumes the entire screen. In fact, we might work in a little feature where we can make it expand automatically upon click and then collapse back into a smaller version as well. So let's go ahead and put in a fill. So we just click over here, a fill color, and then this is the great thing about designing and being able to design yourself. What color should this panel be based on the background color? Well, we have options, and that's the fun thing about this. We can choose to make it white. This is okay. If you want to go white, fine. We could choose to take the background color. We'll make it the exact background color, and then we can come over here and drag up slightly. So maybe it's the same shade, but it's a lighter value, meaning it's brighter. So you can do this too. Maybe we will. All right. I don't even know what I'm doing yet. So then we could take, if you want, you can have, corners that are 90 degrees, hard edges like this, or we can go ahead and come over here with the corner radius and drag this, create big corners, rounded, what have you. This is fine right there. Okay. So shame on you for the design course plug. So, what is up, Malik? That is a long time channel regular as well. All right. So now we have this. Now we have to ask ourselves, what should go inside of it? Let's be logical here. All right. So maybe we will have a circle, like an avatar type thing. It's kind of how I designed the one I'm working on with my SAS, which I'll show in a little bit. So what I do is just I hit O, the letter O, Shift Alt, and then left click and drag out to create a perfect circle from the center. All right. So maybe there's like some type of, little icon here. And maybe we'll just take this color, make it blue for now. Okay, whatever. And then what we'll do is we have to design the actual chat container section. All right. So I think right here is a good part to pause and kind of show you what the chat app that I already built. All right. And this is in the context of a SAS that I'm working on. And it's basically like an AI powered YouTube coach. So I've got pretty far. My plan is to finish it. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So here's part of the UI. And you can see over here, this is the chat. This is kind of what we're going to try to recreate. Honestly, maybe we'll change up the colors. I don't want it to look the same as this thing I already built. But this is the chat, and it's actually, it's already, ready to go. So for instance, if I say, what are my goals again for the channel? Notice we have like a little animated CSS border while it thinks, and we wait for a response. Your goal for the channel are to get way more views and buy a Lamborghini. So what's cool is you can augment or supplement the chat to be able to pull from user data from the database that was previously entered. So that's really, really freaking cool. So we can, like I said, we can do things like detach it from the UI. And so this is kind of like, just having a back and forth. And I'm not going to get into like, how do we augment it, like RAG acronym as it's called, with additional information, but we are going to try to have a conversation with the LLM, or at least get to that point. Okay. So now what we'll do is we are going to design what it looks like when the LLM responds. So I'm going to hit T for the type tool and just left click. All right. So now we can see this cursor in here. We're going to say, well, I'm just going to say test for now. And I'm going to left click and drag out this text field. And there are some, if we go down here, there's some little handy AI powered tools like replace content or rewrite this rather. So what do I want to say? Generate a fake comment coming from an AI. Make it a few sentences. Okay. So we'll hit rewrite. That's one of the cool things. Relatively new features in Figma. All right. So now we have some data that we can work with in order to design it. Now, typography is a very important aspect of UI UX design. Like when I look at this type, I'm thinking to myself, it's a little bit too close in line height. I want to extend it a little bit. We also look over here in the typography section. It says 12 for the size. That's too small. So we want to bump that up at least to like around 16. And additionally, we'll increase the line height just a bit. I hate when it does that. There we go. Okay. We'll increase it a little bit more. Okay. All right, that works. Now, we don't have to choose white. You don't have to, but you do want to make sure that we have proper contrast. Again, a UI fundamental. So let's go ahead and take the current color, and then we'll drag the value up higher. So we can see it's not completely white, but there's still sufficient white space, and it is using the same color, just a higher, lighter value. This here works fine. Okay, so that's going to be one of the, that's what the response is going to look like from the AI right there. Simple. Then we're going to do a response of what it looks like when the user types something, right? Because we want to establish a visual hierarchy. We want to easily be able to identify who, is this the thing I said, or is it the thing that the AI said? So a common flow for this type of thing is to hit frame. We're going to wrap it around that type right there. Now, as you can see, we have frame 2. It's wrapped around this now. Let's give it a background color, fill. That looks ugly. Let's give it this color maybe. It's kind of what I did in the app I just showed you. And we're going to bump this up to white. All righty. Now, see the hard edges? Well, we don't have hard edges here. We have round edges. So you want to keep things consistent. Again, consistency, that's yet another UI design fundamental principle. So now, instead of making it the same value as this, which happens to be 17, well, this one, we're going to go ahead and make it maybe, I don't know, 10. There we go. Okay. So this looks a little strange because it's the same exact type. You could, go back to the rewrite this and say, make this unique. We don't have to, though, because we understand that this is what we want. The next thing I would do is, for this design, is now we need to design the actual part where there's a text field for the user to enter some text, along with like a send button. Okay, so there's a lot of different options. You can have a very explicit, obvious text field that's wrapped in a stroke, or it has a background color, or both. Or a common pattern these days with these type of chats is to kind of make it minimalistic. It's up to you. It's one of those things. Frame, hit the F key. I'm going to drag out something right around there. Okay. Again, this has a corner radius of 10. Let's do the same thing over here. So this will be 10 as well. Can't see it because it's the same color, has no fill. And let's give it a fill. I don't like that. So let's just take the background color and maybe we'll make it just slightly lighter. That could work. Notice the approach that I used on my app. I have it going all the way across. And then inside of here, there's an actual, I have to change this. I don't like that design. But yeah, this is another approach. So again, just going back and to reiterate, you have a lot of different approaches that you can utilize. All right. So that looks pretty good right there. I think I'm happy with that. Then we can go ahead and just duplicate this. Control D, hold Shift, move it over. left click, drag this, and maybe this is the send button. And maybe in order to create a visual hierarchy between these two elements, this is because this is the text field, this is a call to action, a button you click. We want them to be styled differently, right? Yes. So hit I on your keyboard, grab that color. There we go. Now we can go ahead, right click, go to plugins, and then go to manage plugins, type in Iconify. Now, this isn't the only icon library that you can use. This is just kind of like a bunch of different icons from different libraries. It's not a big deal in this case because we only have one or two maybe. So you want to open up Iconify, and then we could just do a type, or a search rather, for up arrow or just arrow. Okay, so, or a send. Let's do send. Okay, yeah, we'll use this one. So we just drag this over here, close it, rotate it, holding shift, and we'll make the selection color white. All righty. All right, so we're almost done actually with the design. Up here, let's think, maybe we'll get out Iconify again just to get one little feature in here. And I'll type in expand. And let's just do this one. So let's just drag this up, close it, zoom the hell up, change the selection color to white. All right, and we'll put this, let's see here. Got to think a little bit of how I want this structured right there. Okay. Now, you might be thinking, okay, we're done in Figma. No, we're not. We are absolutely not done in Figma. That's because if your goal is to use the Figma MCP server in order to get this translated automatically to the browser without touching HTML, CSS, which is the thing I used to teach. We all had to do this shit by hand. If your goal is to use the MCP server, though, in order to get this translated to the browser, what you have to do is you have to set things up properly. And that's a two-step process. The one step is utilizing the auto layout feature here in Figma. It's not utilized at all yet. And you'll see what I mean if you don't even know what I'm talking about yet. This will be like an intro to that process. And then the second step is to ensure that you're utilizing variables and styles in all relevant aspects. Because if you don't do that, then the result that you get in the browser via using the Figma MCP server will be very different looking than what you have here. Structurally, it might look kind of the same, but it's not going to be exact. So you have to spend a little time learning how to do this setup process before you use the Figma MCP server. All right. Looks like nobody is talking. Everybody's just watching. That's fine. Okay. So far, so good. Now, the first thing I'm going to do before I get to the step where we do variables and styles and get all that shit working, we are going to get this set up properly in the context of auto layout. Here's how we do it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look maybe at this top section. And this is this little avatar, which is blank. And then we have this over here. If you think about it, you need to start thinking about stuff in rows versus columns. You know, for instance, this element right here and this element right here, they are on the same row, okay? One just happens to be aligned to the top of the row. So if you think about it, don't do this. I'm going to get this little imaginary div element. Let's do a stroke. If you think about it, when it comes to HTML is structured in such a way that they're kind of just like building blocks. And we have an element here, and then we got an element over here. Notice how they fall within the same row. Think of this as a row. But it's two columns. It's one row, two columns. And so our goal with the auto layout feature is to kind of create a simulation of the HTML scaffolding so that the Figma MCP server understands how to structure the HTML and the CSS. All right. So what we'll do is taking both of those elements, we select both, and then right over here, this little icon where it says use auto layout, you can click this or hit Shift A, and this adds it into what's called auto layout. And then this area over here starts changing into this scary stuff. If you've never seen it before, you're like, what the hell is this? But it's not that bad. It does take some practice to get used to it though. So when we add things to auto layout, nothing changed visually. We have this thing here in the middle where we can do this crap. And you have these options where we can, ooh, look at that. If we move this around, we can change how this icon over here is responding. That's pretty cool. For now, we're just going to leave it like this though. And we're going to be cool with that. Okay. Now, oh, I forgot. There's a third step with setting things up. You also want to name your layers, which we have not done yet. And we will name them because that is additional context that's provided to the MCP server. So here we have our little auto layout over here. We haven't done much to it. We may have to come back to it though to fix it. And you'll see what I mean. Additionally, we have this element right here. Okay. So this right here, obviously the piece of type isn't auto layout in and of itself. But we can add auto layout to it if we wrap it in a frame. So if we right click, we can do frame selection. And then now we have the option to add the auto layout. So we can add auto layout there to that selection. All right. And we're not going to really mess around with the actual parameters right now. I just kind of want to get auto layout added where it makes sense. So here's another frame with the user message. So let's add auto layout there. Now, when you add auto layout to things, it may break the layout or shift things around. So then we're going to have to come back to fix that. So also another thing that I didn't mention is notice how I didn't make this whole parent container an auto layout because you could think of this as like HTML scaffolding. So these are the child elements, which could be like thought of as HTML. I don't start by adding auto layout to that thing first. I get the things that are embedded into each other as auto layouts, if that makes sense. So I'm taking care of the stuff on the inside. Now, the final thing over here is this area. So we have the text field, we have the button, and we're going to take both of those, click auto layout. All right. So now we have various auto layouts, but it's not functioning how we want it to yet because we still need to set things up. Now, one thing that's going to be difficult for somebody to understand and wrap your head around is you have to imagine, you know, this chat area also has another kind of like, it needs another auto layout worked within it, but it's invisible. And that is when you start adding a bunch of messages, what ends up happening, showing you my live example, is you kind of have a scroll bar, obviously, on the inside. So this whole area where there's a scroll bar has to be an auto layout as well. There has to be a div element to account for that in the HTML. So all we do is hit the F key for the frame tool, left click and drag it around those two existing auto layouts, the two messages. All right. Now, when you do that, you don't really see much of anything happening because there is nothing that changed visually, but except over here, we now have a parent container around the two chat messages. It's called frame 8 currently. Again, we're going to go back and fix that stuff. So now we have auto layouts all over the place. The last place to add an auto layout in this context would be the chat container. So let's add auto layout by selecting it and then clicking the auto layout button. And it mostly worked. You know, it kind of shifted this to the center, but is it still working how we want it to? No, some things are kind of responsive, right? Like this is staying to the right. We would want that in the actual app, but we would want this to expand all the way over. This is kind of like moving over there. I don't really like that too much, you know, so we may have to restructure some things in order to get this to work. So the first thing I'll do is we'll come back up here to the top and we have some options here. What we could do, let's see, is we could literally just duplicate that. So when things are in auto layout and you duplicate it, you'll see that it's hard to move them around thereafter. It's not like I can grab this thing and put it wherever I want unless I made it like a position absolute element. But if I really want this to span all the way across, well, we have a couple options. First, or not a couple, I have like really one, the width. Notice how it says fixed width. That's why it's not spanning all the way across the parent container. So we can do fill container. Okay. So now this means this element's always going to be in the center. If we remove this second element, notice what happens then. It kind of stays over here to the left. Do we necessarily want that? You know, if we want to keep that centered right there and that over there, we have two options. What we could delete that part and then take this and let's see here. Let's change this to, we have this fill. There we go. I had to play around with these little settings right here. So now that we can align that to the center. Additionally, I want to go back though, because we want our expand icon. So what I could do is take the expand icon and the actual avatar and add those into its own auto layout. All right. And then what we could do is, and I'm thinking off the top of my head right now, not changes to hug content. Let's do fixed. All right. Is this actually there? It's interesting. It says fixed width, but let's change this to auto. I'm thinking out loud. I'll describe my proposed solution because I didn't really think about the solution with how I set the layout up. We don't want empty divs. So let's see here. Wonder why it's acting like that. We have height hug, which is fine. Now, if we change fixed width, it's actually not. Oh, I know. Auto. There we go. That was causing the problem. Now, okay. So now if I take the parent element and then we choose to align it, let's see here. Okay, there we go. That was a little bit difficult. All right. I'm not sure if I like that though. And it's not the intended behavior that I wanted. Hang with me. I know a quick fix, but I don't like the proposed solution because I'm trying to think. Okay, we're going to revise the idea, I think. We're going to use a position absolute for this element likely to get it positioned here thereafter in cursor. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay, so what I'll do is instead of worrying about getting that structured correctly, we're just going to leave it like this for now and then prompt it thereafter because I didn't really think too much about how I want to get that integrated. Sorry about that. Okay. So now this is the realities of live vibe coding, or not vibe coding, but designing rather, doing shit live. Okay. So now what we'll do is taking a look at this. Is it expanding? No. So we want to take this element first. We're going to make sure that that is fill, and it is. The element inside of it, what is that? Width. All right. That's hug contents. Let's see here. Frame. Width is, all right, so if we look at the text element, we could see width is hard-coded at fixed. So we want fill, container, and I'm going to drag this out just so that we can get a visual. This right here, that's because the parent element, this frame 8, does not have auto layout. So we're going to add auto layout right there. Now we can take this element that's wrapping around here and change it to fill container. There we go. So now if we drag this in and out, we're going to see how that works. That's the intended behavior that we want in the browser. Okay. Next up, we need to do same thing with this element. And again, going back to here, the width is fixed. So, or hugged rather. So we want to change it to fill container. This right here, the text inside of it, if you control left click, you can select into it. That needs to be fill container as well. Now we have some white space issues. Like notice how this is so close to the edge. So what you do is you take the parent container and you can adjust the white space on the inside. So if we take this value, we can push that away from the edge. There we go. So now it looks better. And if we take this, look what's happening. That's what we want. Not what this issue up there, that's not what we want. That's fine. You'll see how we'll fix that later. Now, another thing is like this area where it says 129, that's too much white space above it. So we're just going to reduce that. All right. So now if I drag this in and out, it's working mostly, but now we have to work on the chat text area. So looking back at this is fill container. That is what we want. This is auto for the space, which is what we want. But if we double click into here to frame 3, let's turn this into a frame. All right. And we want to fill container. Additionally, if we select the parent container, we want to have some white space in between these two elements. All right. I'm trying to think about how I want to approach that. Let's see if I just left click and drag like right around there. There we go. So now notice, regardless of the height or width, this is now responding and behaving exactly, pretty much how we want. Okay. So now we pretty much have, now the one thing, notice how I've been only focused on the width. What about the height? Like if this were to scale, does it work? That's not working kind of how I intended it, because this area should always be falling to the bottom, or it should be fixed to the bottom of this container. So how do you do that? Well, the overall parent container, this whole thing right here, we can change this to auto. Okay. So now we've kind of lost our white space issue up here, but that's fine for now. What we could do is, trying to think of how I want to get this structured. What we could do is for height, notice this is a hug contents, and that's pretty much what we would want to do, but you don't always have to. You can have a fixed height, push this up. All right. And now it's fixed, meaning we wouldn't be able to go like smaller than that, but we can push it down further as well. We'll see how the resulting HTML looks, and then we can make our in CSS and what it looks like in the browser, and then make some finer adjustments. But overall, this is pretty much what we want right here. Okay, so now that we have that, the next step, there's 2 more steps. We have to make sure our layers are named. So let's just focus on that. I'm going to zoom up, and we're going to focus at one thing at a time. So frame 1, this is chat container, I'll call it. We have this right here. We'll just call this header. Next up, we have our frame 9, which is what? Oh, okay. We'll just call this inner. And then this is going to be called avatar. And this is going to be called expand. This is actually, layer names are passed from Figma to the MCP server to give it context. And it will name things based on it and also gain other insight. Next up is going to be the chat container, which I already called the overall thing the chat container. So I'll just call this message container. Inside of here, we're going to name this one. This is the AI message. And I'll just call this AI message text. This is going to be user message. And this is going to be user message text. Then we have frame 7. Let's go down. This is down here. This is going to be called, let's see, we'll call this response container. Next up, we have the actual response text field. This is going to be called over here, the send CTA. And this is just going to be send icon. And there we go. We've named all of our layers now. Sweet. Okay. Next up, the final step is making sure, and this part can be a little bit of a lengthy process, but it's necessary. We have to make sure we're using color variables in the areas that make sense. And also for these values right here, like the white space, these margin gap properties, the corner radius, all that stuff are tied to variables. Otherwise, for some reason, the MCP servers cannot access this content right here. So that's a pain. It sucks, but it will guess. It'll guess on what these values need to be. Another thing is for typography, making styles out of your typography. So let's do that first, I guess. So like right here, we select this text. I'm right on the actual text layer. I can go over here, click on typography, and I will click plus, and we'll call this one AI type. And that's all you have to do in that regard. Over here, we'll do the same thing. Hit plus. Oh, fuck. I messed it up. Hit plus. I swear a lot, so sometimes that leaks out into my videos. This will be user text. All right. So that's the only type that we actually have in the entire little system that we're building. Next up, let's start now with the values and all that good stuff and colors. So we could see we have this color right here for the panel, the fill. We need to add that to a actual variable. So right here, you click on it. We click plus. Notice it says variable. I'm going to call this panel BG. There we go. That's one of the steps. Another thing that we need, well, let's just get up all the color stuff first, and then we'll deal with the actual numeric values. So the next thing I'll do is we'll take this color right here. And what we can do is, let's see, one way to approach this that's even quicker. If we select the entire chat container, you can see it shows you all the colors associated with your current selection. So like this one, we see blue. Blue occurs in 3 different areas: this send button, this user message button, this one at the top. So what I'll do is click on, sorry, I haven't looked at the chat in a while. I will in a bit after we're done with this process. Okay. I wanted to make sure I'm still streaming and everything's still working, and I am. Okay. So what we'll do is click on this little button, click plus, we'll call this primary color. All right. Next up, we have white that's used in multiple areas. So I'm going to click plus. I'll just call this white for now. You could probably make better. I'm just trying to move a little bit quicker. This here, that's used in this container. So what I just did right there, if I click back, we'll see this color. I wasn't sure where the hell this color is being used. So you click this little select color item area, and it's like, you click it, and it's like, oh, okay, that is the text field background. So then what I can do, and it's only used in one area. So what I could do is just come over here, click plus. And there's different naming conventions that you can use. For this very simple demo, I'm just going to call it literal, like text field BG. And then finally, we have this element, which is the text, the AI text. It only occurs in one area, so I can click on it, click plus, and we'll call this AI text color. There we go. That right here is all of our colors. And guess what? They are all in variables, because you can see it has this little detach variable section. So we're all good with the colors. One more step here. What about the values? These specific values, like right here, this value, sometimes this value if it's not auto. Also the corner radius values. Those are like the 4 areas that I add variables in. And you don't always have to use the exact ones, because there's predefined variables in Figma. So you don't have to keep on creating new ones from scratch, as long as you can get pretty close. So here's what I mean. This element right here, we can see it has a vertical padding value on the top and bottom of 21. So we click this little value right there, and we can find like, 24. That's fine with me. What about 14? Let's just use 12, whatever. That's fine with me as well. They're close. And then down here, 17. Okay, well, let's just use 16. Okay, so now we go through all the different layers and we do that same process. So over here, this is 152. We can hit apply variable. And again, if they don't have anything that's close, there's 160. We could click plus and just add it, to our own. So top, I'm not even worried about thinking about correct naming conventions right now. I want to go fast. So now we have this inner element. What's happening here? Now, if it's 0, I haven't experimented with leaving these elements 0, but you can just put explicitly a color variable of 0 in these. I don't think you don't really have to do it for corner radius anyways. It doesn't matter because this, you wouldn't even be able to see a corner radius because this element doesn't have a background or a fill. So it doesn't even matter if it tries to. Additionally, so we have that. All right, these are good. Next up is this section, the message container. All right, so 10 and 12, let's keep things consistent. 12 and 12 here as well. Over here, we have 26, apply variable, 24. All right, we're good. Next up, we're almost done. We are almost done with this process. We have the AI message. I'm looking here. Again, I'm not sure. We can just add these quickly. Over here. What else is there? Yeah, we don't have to worry about the actual text element. So we're really just looking at the auto layout frames right now. Why is that different? There's like 4 different padding values here. Oh, it's because we messed around. Okay, that's fine. 14, we change this to 12. Everything will be fine. This is 16. So we got 16 there. This changes to 12. Oops, not that. Not 16, 12. There we go. And then 4, which I believe there's a 4 value. All right. Also 10 right there. So let's just make that 12. Again, trying to work quick here. It's not pixel perfect perfection, but it'll work. I think that's good in that regard. Yep. All right. And then finally, we'll take this down here. Do the same thing real quickly. We have 12 for that value. Again, don't know if we need to put variables for 0 values, but we're good. One last thing over here. We only have 2 more elements and we're done with this entire Figma process. So I apply a variable as 10. Let's just make it 12 because we don't have one. Again, you can add those if you want to be perfect. I'm trying to be fast. Okay. And then one final thing is the actual button container. Oh, that needs to be an auto layout. So let's add that, center it. There we go. And apply variable of 12. This will be 16. Might as well be 16 as well here. All right. I think we're ready to rock. Wow, that's so exciting. Okay. What you could do is also take the overall frame and make that an auto layout as well. Might as well. So you click auto layout or shift A, and we're going to center it. And there we go. Now you'll notice here, we have some weird things like huge values for padding and all that stuff. I don't even, let me see here. Let's actually, since it's the overall frame, we're going to leave that at these values and then we'll fix it thereafter. Okay. So now what we do is, I'll call this UI, and this is going to be the frame we select and tell Figma, like, hey, we selected this frame. We need to translate this to HTML and CSS in our Next.js app. Okay, so we're ready to rock in this regard. What we want to do is, if you want to use the Figma MCP server to do the same thing, download the desktop version of Figma, come over here and go to Preferences, come all the way down to Enable Local MCP Server. That's what you want. There's some like image settings. I have download specified. That's fine. And now we're going to switch gears. We're going to come back to this when we're ready to get this translated, but we're going to go to Cursor now. So in Cursor, if you go to create a new folder and open it up. So this is the folder. It's called Live Chat. Again, you just hit open folder and choose, you create a new folder, select it, and that's where I'm at right here. And then you go to terminal, or view rather, and go to terminal. And then right here is npx create next app at latest. So that's what you could do is you could prompt Cursor and you'd be like, hey, create a Next.js app for me. But why waste the tokens when you can just do it yourself? So that's what I like to do. We create it manually. Now, in order to use like npm and npx commands, you have to make sure Node.js is installed on your machine with the Node package manager in order for this to work. So I already hit enter on that little command right there, and it says proceed. I'm going to hit Y for yes. What is my app name? We'll call this, why the hell is it? Oh, there we go. Live chat. TypeScript, yes. And you know what? I just hit yes for all these damn things. We're using Tailwind, Source, App Router, TurboPack, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to embed it into this actual subfolder, which is fine. We'll just reopen Cursor in that folder and work there. Otherwise, we could have done this in the main, the folder behind this, the code folder, but that's not a big deal. While this is installing, I'll just go ahead and take a look at the messages here. We are focused learners. Let's see here. So do you let AI do all the work nowadays to build your designs? No. When it comes to design, I like to do it myself mostly. How do you account for padding in auto layout? Again, you saw how the padding values are added as, what do you call, variables. And so we'll see how it translates. It's kind of like, it doesn't do an absolute perfect job every time, but we really did scaffold it as much as I could with my current understanding of Supabase MCP server. I mean, not Supabase, but Figma's MCP server. And I've done it enough times to where it should do a pretty good job, but you never know. We'll find out. So now that we have that, I'm going to go back to open folder, and I'm just going to open the folder of live chat, select folder. Now here's the new Next.js app that's already ready to rock. So if I go to view terminal, and is it npm run dev? Yeah. So it should open localhost 3001 because I have one already, for the other app that's opened up. Yep, there it is. And if I control left click, we should get the starter template, and here it is. This is our Next.js app. And guess what? We didn't have to waste a bunch of tokens getting this thing to work. All right. So, damn, we're at 48 minutes already. I'm trying to be thorough with this as much as I can. So now this is the step where we get AI involved. But before we do that, we want to come up here, if you're using Cursor, go to chat settings. And I'm going to temporarily move this out of the way because I don't want keys showing up when I go to the next section. And they're not, so that's good. So going back here, when you go to to the chat settings, I combined two words. We want to come over here to MCP and integrations. And this is where your MCP servers are. You can see I have Supabase, Context 7. I use these two a lot, but we also see Figma. So I already did a tutorial on this channel, a video that shows you how to get this integrated. I'm not going to cover it here. Just look through my videos within the past month or so, and you'll find it. Just type in Figma, and you'll see. But you can see the one thing that's important is it's enabled, and it is green. It's not red. If the status is red, the Cursor chat won't have access to be able to use the MCP server. Okay, so now that those things are all ready to rock, or at least the Figma one, that's the only one we're going to be using at this point in time, we can come up here to our chat. You can click here to toggle it on and off. And this is where we enter our very first prompt. And what I'll say is I already had like a little bit of a prompt prepared. So I'm going to copy, paste that in. And here's what I said. So using the selected frame in Figma, use the Figma MCP server. So I always find it's good to tell it to use what MCP server you want it to use. Be explicit about that. Translate this design accurately. Use the various metadata such as variables, styles, auto layout, etc., to create an exact representation of the layout. Do not make it function for now. We're going to worry about that thereafter, but center it horizontally within the browser. And I think that's probably enough context. I want to do another thing. I want to add above it. You're currently working on a fresh install of Next.js. We're going to create a chat app. All right. The first step, I'll say the first step. All right, the first step. All right. So I think that's going to be the first. It's tough to stream at the same time, knowing people are watching you. And also, is this accurate enough? Is this good enough? Now, the good thing about it is we can always reprompt it if it looks like it screwed things up in dramatic fashion. Let me go back to Figma now, because this next step is important. I realized I did not create a color variable for the actual background. So let me do that real fast. We'll click on it. Plus, we'll call this website BG color. There we go. Okay. So now we have, here's a little tip. You can't select like multiple different frames. You can only select one thing at a time, like a frame, for the MCP server to work. So very important. So we've selected the right frame that we want, which is the overall entire layout. And we're going to minimize it with that selected. And then we're going to go ahead and hit send and hope and pray this thing works, especially for my sake, being a live streamer right here. So I'm using ChatGPT 5 for this. You could probably, there's other models we could have used, but we are in agent mode, not ask mode, important. And we're going to wait for this. And it shouldn't take that long. It's not like a ton of stuff. So we're going to hope and hope and hope that it works. So, okay, calling. Here's the MCP server stuff. These are tools that exist within the Figma MCP tool. All right. And they're working because they have check marks. If they didn't, it would probably make up its own design. Literally, that's what it does. Like the goal of these AI LLMs are to be like, they're going to fulfill the request no matter what. But you want to make sure that this stuff is working here. So we're going to wait a little bit longer. Have I tried Tray? Did you like it? I don't know what that is. Never heard of it. That's the first time. All right. So taking a little bit of time. Let's take a look here. We got Figma assets over here. So these are our two icons. If I click on them, they all look busted. Yeah, but we'll see what this ends up producing. Now, if I look here in public and source, rather, this is where the code will go. It's building out. Oh, wait, no, this is the default starter template. So it did that. That took a while. ChatGPT 5 is pretty slow, at least in this mode. Now, the Grok models are a lot faster, and it's worth experimenting with that. I found that Grok will probably do it fine as well. I kind of regret using GPT 5 because Grok could have been a lot faster. But if anybody has questions of any sort, let me know in chat. That way, when we have this little downtime, this should be like the lengthiest part because, this is getting the whole UI in. But yeah, come on. All right, so now it's going to start writing code here soon. Implement the Figma design. Get code. To center the UI, I'll wrap the container, blah, blah, blah. Yep. So the background color for the entire page. See, if I didn't add that as a variable for the background color, like we did at the, just recently, it would have guessed. So here's the to-dos that it created. Create chat mock component from Figma code, render chat mock centered on page, set background. I have not set up LLMs locally yet, but it's on my to-do for sure, because there's probably tremendous value. Now, while this is running, you can get the window up as long as your npm run dev is running, and you can kind of see, we'll be able to see this we'll be able to see how close it got. This is always the scary part. It's exciting, but it's scary because you're like, I hope it worked. I hope I set up my auto layouts properly. Typically, there's things that you have to fix, but the goal is to make those fixes minimal. We are at 56 minutes. By the way, everybody, very soon I'm going to be, I'm not worried about that. It's still working. Very soon we're going to be doing like a follow along course at designcourse.com where I help people, where we build out a portfolio client management system with AI, which I think would be super cool. This is a little annoying because if I refresh this, we have an error. That's never good, but what I'll do is there's a couple ways, like when you have errors like this, to fix it and deal with it. What we want to do is you could do a screenshot and just paste this here, or you can come over here, you can add the terminal. So if we click terminals to the context, we click node. Now it's been added, and we could say there's an error in the terminal. Fix this. I probably sort of switched the models again to get a faster response. But now what it's going to do is it's going to check to see what the issue is, the SSR. And typically I'm finding that, they are able to fix issues increasingly so at a better pace. There we go. So it's used this stupid thing here. That's dumb. The images are all broken. And sometimes this is the first time I've seen it have broken images, which is kind of frustrating that it did that. But it looks like it got really close and accurate to what I wanted. Now, it's not like super responsive, which we can have it fix, but it did a very good job otherwise. And we could see these issues here with the chat icon. So we need to get that fixed, this part fixed. And so to do that, maybe we can come over here to Figma and I can say, okay, here's our inner element where we have an avatar and then an expand icon. So let's see if this will work. What I'll do is again, this is one of the ways additionally where you can use the Figma MCP server in like an iterative fashion. Like since we already, exported this, then we can also use it for follow-up issues, as well. So I can say, what I can say is I'll create a screenshot. All right. And then I'll paste it as context right here. We can see right there, the image. And I could say, and by the way, I always like to go back to my chat settings, my cursor settings, make sure Figma, see, sometimes for whatever reason, the damn MCP servers will just say they're not connected. So what you have to do, toggle it off, toggle it back on. It's bad UX. I'm sure they'll fix that in the future. But now I can say the areas that have images in the app are broken images. All right. I've selected a layer for the top header section that has two elements, a circular avatar placeholder which can be created with HTML and CSS, since as it's a simple circle placeholder, really, and in expand icon, I'll say a white expand icon. I still need to experiment with why it's not. Sometimes it doesn't like extract the actual SVG code. I can ask it to just to use a generic white expand icon, or attempt to again get the SVG code from that icon to use that. We'll try that approach first. Extract the SVG code from, and then I can tell it which layer from the expand. All right, from the expand. That is selected. All right, so let's send that. Dang it. I'm still on GPT-5. It's so slow. Now I'll move this over. Now let me take a look at some of these comments while we wait. Review Replit AI one day. It by default creates a UI first, and then based on our approval, it builds the app. Right. So I'm just showing that if you wanted to handle things like design-wise yourself, like if you're a UI UX designer, this is how you would do it. That's why I wanted to include it, even though it's a lengthy process. But to answer your question, guess what? Tomorrow, there's a Replit video releasing on my channel where I use it to build an AI-powered chat app for my wife's business. So definitely check that out. That's releasing tomorrow morning. It's kind of funny that you said that. As this works, here's another one. Would it be possible to produce a Figma handoff content to code without using AI? I think there might be some type of, there were some old school services and plugins in Figma that would help you do that. So yeah, that's one option to look into, but I personally wouldn't do that. Let's see if this thing is actually going to work. I hope to God. We don't want to get stuck up on like stupid things like this. And then I might have to do things by hand. Oh, that's so scary. I've tested several times, and even with a well-crafted prompt, the result is never perfect. The closest I've seen to Figma has been Locofy. I have to look into that. So now it's talking about extracting SVG code and content. Let me read the exported SVGs. Just kind of looking at this stuff right here. It's really thinking hard about this. It shouldn't be this hard. I committed to that. Now I should follow the user rules to implement these. We're going to switch to Grok Code 4, Grok Code Fast. Let's do this one. It's free too. Why not? So for our next prompt, we're going to use that, and we'll see how much faster it is. Let's take a look if it's actually done anything. Still waiting. I mean, Jesus, this must be the high reasoning mode or whatever of GPT-5. So what a pain in the ass. This shouldn't take this long. It's like, come on. I don't know if you've covered this before, but AI is taking, is AI taking over design, or do I still have a chance if I want to start getting into design again? No, I would say AI is taking over way more in terms of code probably than the design side of things. Yes, it can use things like ShadCN templates or whatever to generate basic stuff, but for truly like custom higher level stuff, having hand design skills is important. So what is it doing? Look, what is this? Why is it going so crazy? Like, it's his most simple fucking request, and it's sitting there acting like I asked it to like perform brain surgery. Unbelievable. Can you use your Figma file? Ah, there it is, for the cursor prompt. No. I mean, yes, you could, but a lot of times because computer vision, it's called CV in AI, computer vision isn't that great. That's why, like, if you ever tried taking a full mock-up and just pasting that as a screenshot and having it try to do it that way, which is what we all experimented with earlier, it would always just like do a really bad job of implementing what you want, because it's computer vision is not good enough yet. It will get better, but yeah. So this works. Now there are slight issues, like for instance, notice how it has it centered. This is a flex box issue. It should be positioned up here. I'm not too worried about that right now. We're just going to leave this as is, because we, at least in this right here, notice how this doesn't expand fully. We'll worry about that stuff afterwards. I just want to get functionality working. Like this right here isn't even a text field. So I guess that would probably be the next step. We want to get this to be an active text field. So how do you know if this is a text field or not? Well, Control-Shift-I, that gets a dev inspector. We use this little selector. We click over here, and then we click right here. Notice it says it's a div element. See, this is why it's so important to have a little bit of background knowledge about HTML. Because if you didn't know anything about HTML, you're like, why doesn't the damn text field work? This is supposed to be a text field. Well, because it didn't make it a text field. It made it a div element, which is a common problem when it comes to Figma MCP server. Even though I put text field in the title, it didn't. So I suppose I could have said in the initial prompt, like, okay, this layer is supposed to be a text field. Make sure that that is an actual text field element. But I forgot. So we can just do a follow-up. So all I have to say is I could say, I could come out here. I could say, I could either copy and paste this or print screen this section. Oops, let me fix something. I can print screen it right there. Pass that as context and be like, this element is a div element, but it should be, let me move this over, a text field. Make it a text field element, as this will be the area where the user sends messages. Now, notice we use Grok code fast. It's not as versatile of a model, but this is a pretty simple request, but it should be super fast. Oh, I forgot. Whenever you send in images, I don't think Grok code is going to work because it can't interpret image data. Yes, see, trying to submit images with a vision-enabled model selected, you can't do that. So instead, if we go back up here, we'll just choose Claude 4 Sonnet. It's a little bit faster. Let's hit there, select that, and now let's go back. Hopefully it maintains the same styling. Ah, look, that was much faster. Thank you. And it's perfect. Look at that. All right, so now that's a text field that works. All right, we're getting places, people. Another thing that we want to be aware of is, what if we have multiple, like 2 more messages? We want to see if it has scroll bars, which it probably won't. It's going to break the layout. So if we go to source, we go to app, or components rather, chat mockup, we can see here's all the HTML. I'm just going to click keep all. And let's see. We could either do this ourselves. Where's all the text at, the content? Ah, right here. So it's important to understand how this is structured. I kind of don't want to have to do this live because I don't want to copy and paste the wrong sections. Okay, so that's that. Let's just take this. I'm going to copy it, paste it 2 times. What did it do? Ah, okay. So now we can see it is a fixed height, which is what we want, but there's no scroll bars. So that's because the overflow settings. So what we want to say is, let's see here. I can pass this along as context. All right. And we can also additionally, to give it extra context, we can select the overall element. And so then I can just copy this, or what you can do is, another thing I've done in the past is just double click into the class attribute and just copy that. And you can say the div element, let me come down here. The div element with class should be, and then just paste that in, should be, should have a vertical scroll bar for the chat container when there are multiple messages, something like that. So let's hit send. And again, we're not using Grok because we just sent in some image data. So we can go over here. There it is. There's a scroll bar. Now, this is ugly. We want one that's more like the other one that we had, like in my live app that I'm working on. We want one that's like this one right here. It's kind of minimalistic. So what we can say is get rid of the scroll bar. I think it's called the track. I just want to keep the element that you can drag and with your mouse to scroll. Okay. So hit send. You go back. It should get rid of this whole section right here and only keep this element right here. So let's let it work. There we go. You can also get more specific and have it customize, you know, the color of the bar and all that crap. Okay. So now this is really important. Not a lot of people know this, even today. If we look at this right here, you might be wondering, what the hell is this value, right? Like in cursor. Well, all models have what are called context windows. And the more you chat with it, right, the higher this value, this percentage value gets. Now, when it starts getting up to like 100% or close to it, it will automatically summarize in order to free up the tokens, the context window. And what you want to do, you want to get in the habit of clearing this context window after you've integrated a feature. So in our case, we've got the layout kind of how we want it to, right? It's not perfect. We got stupid stuff. This looks like crap. It needs to be over here. We can mess with that, you know, on our own time. Same thing with this button. We want to kind of fix that as well. But for the most part, let's just say we're happy with how things look right now. Well, what you want to do is get in the habit of like, hey, that's the feature that we just built. We're happy with it. Now what we can do is, ordinarily, I would add a new terminal by clicking here. And then I would get this connected to GitHub, like with a new repo. Should I show that process? Yes. I don't want to be lazy. So I'm going to show you real quickly. I'm going to go to my GitHub account. And I'm going to click on new after you're logged in. And we're going to call this our little chat app. All right. Choose visibility, public, whatever, create repo. Okay. So it's going to tell you some things to enter into your terminal. You need to install Git, all right, in order for this to work. So look that up. I'm not going to cover that process. And so what we do, I'm just going to move this off screen. And I'm going to type in git init. All right. And then notice it's going to give you the next step. Git add what? And by the way, for the absolute brand new noobs, non-technical noobs who are watching this, like what the hell is GitHub? It's just a way to keep your project organized. There's so many different things you can learn about it, but it's very handy, especially when it comes to pushing your app to production, because there's many services like render.com that I use that will automatically rebuild your app every time it detects a change or where you push your new updates to your code base to GitHub, and it automatically rebuilds your entire live website. Again, there's a lot of caveats to that, but I'm just kind of trying to be thorough here. So git add readme. No, we don't want to add just a readme file. We want to add, which is right there. We want to add all this stuff. All right. So what we'll do is just type in git add all. All right. And then it's going to say git commit -m first. That's your message. So I'll say git commit -m first push, whatever. And then git branch m main. And again, I'm just looking through these steps right here. I'm going to copy this one. All right. I'm going to, yep. And then we're going to git push u origin main. There we go. So now, once we've done that, guess what? Refresh GitHub. Here's our repo. Guess what? It exists. So now what's cool is if we click, let's see here. Well, we'll have multiple pushes just to show you this process. The one thing that you should do as well, before we clear the context of this chat, this is real important. We wanted to have it generate a cursor markdown file. Now, the markdown file, this is a markdown .md. This is what's generated when we used the create next app little command at the very beginning. We want one that's specific to cursor that provides it with context based on the the app that we've created. So what I'll say is create a cursor.md file that outlines what our app is about, the technologies that are used. For now, I think that's fine. I don't want to spend too much time on this. And you're going to see it's going to create a cursor.md file. And it's going to go through our code base, kind of figure out what's happening, and it's going to summarize it in the cursor file. Can you use your GitHub account on Cursor? Yeah, there's actually Cursor MCP servers. I'm sorry, GitHub MCP servers, I believe. I don't do that. I just manually push, I git add all, git commit -m, put my message, and then hit git push after like a feature has been adjusted. That's what I do. Now let's go back to Cursor. We can see, now typically, let me rename this to all capitalized Cursor right there. So here's what it generated. Keep all. Live chat is a modern real-time live chat application built with Next.js and React. The project focuses on creating intuitive, visually appealing chat interface that enables seamless communication between users and AI. That works, whatever. For now, that works. It's going to do a project structure, technologies used, Tailwind, custom CSS, NPM, all this stuff. Now, the purpose of this file is once I come up here, and again, this relates to the context window. Once I come up here and I say clear all chats, notice our chat just went away. So now if I were to say, if I were to reprompt it, it's not going to have the previous context of that chat anymore. And so now it's at 0% technically, I guess you could say, that context window, because we're starting a new chat. But when it starts a new chat, automatically Cursor looks for a cursor.md file to provide it as context to the AI upon your first message that you send to Cursor. So that way it's not operating blindly in the dark. And then you can also augment this with custom instructions as well. So you can get in there and start typing and save it, and then it's going to do that as well. So there, I just wanted to describe that because it's not good practice to keep on an ongoing chat with a really high context window across multiple different features. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to get the AI, we want to actually get this thing functioning. right? Because right now it's just a template. We can't, if I try to type and send, no shit's happening, right? So we want this thing to function. So what we're going to say is we're going to come up here. I'm going to say, it's going to read the cursor MD file, but you could be explicit and tell it to read cursor.md file. And I'm going to say after that, let's integrate OpenAI's. We're going to use 4.0. I haven't had, sometimes I tried using ChatGPT 5 API, and I had a little bit of problems. So I know 4.0 just works way better. And let's integrate OpenAI's 4.0 to make our live chat system work. All right. The user should be able to send a message. It will send that message to OpenAI, and the AI's response should show up in the messages in the chat window or something like that. And by the way, when you ask it, when you try to create like a chat app like this with like OpenAI or other models, like I know for instance, OpenAI has a two different ways to get a response from OpenAI in the model. One of them is it will automatically send you a big block of text. That's not typical. Like typically you see character by character response. Like when you use chatgpt.com or any of these chat models, right? That's the one we want. That's called stream, I think. Use the stream endpoint so that when the AI responds, we see it character by character. So you want to be explicit about that because it might give you the other blocked option where it spits out a big old, block of text. That's not typically the UX pattern for AI chat bots. Also, we'll say, give me instructions on how to find. I already know where to find it, but you might want to do this. Give me instructions on how to find and retrieve, or maybe not find, maybe create and retrieve the OpenAI API key. I will create the .env.local file. Now, if you don't know anything about API keys, in your local dev environment, they're stored in a file that's like called .env.local, which you don't want to push to production because it's your API key, but it's just for your development server. But here's the thing. By default, Cursor doesn't have access to these files to be able to modify them. So that's why I'm saying I will create the env local file with the API key myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and send that. I'm starving. Damn it. Oh, Anton, what's up? X user frequently responds to my messages. What is up? Okay. So it's installing OpenAI. It's an NPM package. It gets put into the development dependencies and package.json. Create API route for OpenAI chat completions with streaming. So it understands that. Now I'll create the API route for OpenAI streaming. Transform ChatMock into a functional chat component with state management. Now I'll transform the chat mockup component to a fully functional chat component with state management and streaming. Well, thank you. Awesome. We're at 1 hour and 24 minutes so far. Working. Yeah, so like this comment here, the GTP5 is the smartest model for me. It's slow, but the results are much better among all but models that I know. Yeah, it depends on the task that you're asking. If it's a complex task, You might want to run it through ChatGPT 5 for sure. But even though sometimes ChatGPT 5 won't work, I switched to a different model. I reprompt the same prompt, and it works with a different model. So always experiment with different models. Don't try to get into a huge back and forth. Give it a few times. But yeah, oh, looks like it's ready to rock here. So now this might break because we don't have, now we can see it got rid of the templated message. Welcome, send a message, start chatting. It's not going to work. See, we encountered an error, and I guarantee that error is because we don't have the open API key. But you can see it's submitted. Sweet. I love it. Okay. I love it because it looks like I'm going to get out of this live stream, successfully. It's always worry when you're developing live, especially with AI. Okay. So now it's going to tell us we need to go and create the env local file. So let's do that real quick. It has to be in project root, meaning all these files. You don't want to put it in any other folder. So we're going to click plus up here, and I'm going to say .env.local. All right. Now it's telling me I need to take this text, open the API key. Your key goes here, right there. I'm not going to show you my API key because what you can then do, if you're a little script kiddie and you think you're a hacker, you can use somebody else's damn API key in your app and run a huge freaking bill up, right? So that's what happens. Don't want that to happen. So my API keys are right here, which is okay because guess what? They're not showing you the full damn thing. So what you want to do is platform.openai.com/API keys. Obviously, you need an account first. And I'm going to click create new secret key. I'm going to do this so I forget what happens. Okay, so it doesn't show the actual key yet. The key name, it's actually optional. You just name it your app, right? So I'll call this live chat demo. I'm going to hit create secret key. I'm going to hit copy. And then I'm dragging this thing so you cannot see it. And I'm pasting it where it says your API key here. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close that file out. And there we go. So if I were to click this .env.local, you would see that API key. Okay. Now, with that saved, what we need to do, I believe what we have to do is hit Control-C with that terminal that's running the npm run dev to close it. So Control-C, like you're copying something that ends the server. And then we're going to hit up npm run dev, hit enter. We're going to relaunch it, and this time it's going to load the OpenAI, the key. So Control left click, and I don't know if it's going to work. It should work if it did its job, and if it doesn't work, well, we're going to have to reprompt. I really hope for my sanity it works. Hi, I'm Gary. It's like, what? Let's send it. Oh, look at that. It worked. I'm so excited. How can I assist you today? Well, here's the thing. I don't even know what model it's using. It looked like it was a pretty fast response. Can you tell me about the Figma MCP server? Okay, so it's definitely probably using ChatGPT 4.0 mini when we can ask Cursor which one it's using. But look, it's working. So now I can be like, okay. Now it probably told me already up here. Features implemented. Start chatting. Okay, so I'm going to ask it, and we can put it in ask mode. We can switch to like Grok Code Fast. Which OpenAI model is this app currently using? Try again. Try again. Okay, I guess Grok is sucking. So let's do Grok 4. What the hell's happening? Okay, I guess that's not going to work. Claude. Am I streaming? I'm looking at my internet connection. I'm like, what is going on? GPT-5. That was strange. I wonder why it was like, now we have to wait 4,000 years to get a freaking response. So sometimes like the chat, like the AI models, like the LLMs, like they just won't work and you have to hit retry a bunch of times or switch them. Now we're going to have to wait forever. I think it's 4.0. It is 4.0. That was like a really fast response. Okay. All right. So there's our chat app, but we're not done yet. I want to show you some of the cool things that we can do with this, because just like in the cursor chat, like right here, this has context built into it. And there's a context window with 4.0. I don't know what it is. Actually, we could find out right now. Where's GTP4? We have GTP5, never mind. But GPT-5 has a 272K context window. I'm not sure what 4.0 is, but either way, you run into the same exact, issues. Like if I were to sit there and start chatting forever, it would build up that context window. And there's things you can do to like show what the current context is based on this chat. I have it in my own app, which is right here. This is just for debugging purposes. See that little 1%? So you can have a huge conversation with these models, and it takes a long time to fill up that context window. But we can do certain cool things right now. Oh, what is that? Is that like an error? Oh, no, that was from before. Okay. So you could do cool stuff like to give it personality. This would be a good spot to show you all. Okay, we got the cursor chat OpenAI integrated, right? And it works how we want it to. Now we're going to move on to another feature. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell, before I clear this context window, this chat, I'm going to tell it, and we're going to change to agent mode. I'm going to tell it, update cursor.md with our new features during this chat. Oh, I asked GPT-5 to do it. Dang it. Now it's going to take a while. But nonetheless, notice that before I clear the chat, it has the context of what we just worked on. It's going to update this cursor.md file with the fact that now we're using 4.0, we're using streaming endpoint, environment variables, all that good stuff, so that we keep our cursor MD file up to date, so that the next time we clear the chat and we initiate a new chat, it has this new information, right? So we're going to let this go here, and then we can think about, okay, well, what else can we do to the app to make it interesting? Any plan to revive UI design review lives? Well, I don't know. It depends on what people want to see. I'm getting more into AI, obviously, on this channel. If you look through all my past videos, but I'm still very much a designer, so I cover design like I just did now. But the live reviews, I don't know. We'll see. All right. So updated this. Now we can go ahead and clear the chat. That clears the context window. And again, I'm not sure what it changed here, but streaming AI chat, we could see 4.0 with server side. There we go. That works. Awesome. Okay. So now you can do stuff like really cool stuff like here. Like for instance, if we had a database, we could tell it, like if a person enters this message, make the AI interpret whether this message is about X, Y, or Z. And if it is, then do something. And you can make it actually do something outside of just a response in chat, but you can make it do something to interact with your UI and your app. So for instance, let's do a test, because I already did that with my chat over here. Like for instance, I have it telling, like I have it saying like okay, generate YouTube titles that have to do with, let's see, front-end development in 2025 or something like that. So I send this. It's going to determine what type of request I made look, it's interacting with my UI, and it's going to generate titles here momentarily that are based on, unless it's broken, I'm not sure if I have all the servers running correctly, based on what I requested. But you get the point. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. There it goes. So now it just generated new YouTube ideas for me. This is like a YouTube app that I'm building that's like AI powered. So you can see, you could do some really cool stuff with this. So let's give it a test. If the user enters a message, make the LLM determine if the message is a request to change the background color of the app, right? If so, change the background color of the app to a random color. Really stupid request, right? But I just kind of want to demonstrate some of the cool things that you could potentially do. And one thing that you have to be explicit about is when you have it, if you try to get it to the AI to interpret your requests, sometimes the AI will default to like trying to do a keyword search rather than feeding the message through AI and having the AI interpret. I've ran into that multiple times. I know that kind of sounds strange, but you want it to be intelligent and therefore have the AI decide what to do. So again, if the user enters a message, make the LLM determine if the message is a request to change the background color of the app. If so, change the background color of the app to a random color and respond to the user with the message, I changed the color to, I guess we could put like in brackets, the hex code. Okay, so let's see if this actually works. It might not work. It may take some follow-up. We'll use Claude Sonnet in order to get this a little bit faster. And this is a new chat, so we'll see. It's going to analyze everything and hopefully integrate what we want. Now, some issues I foresee potentially happening is this the actual background color of the website, or is this a div element? Maybe we won't see it. So we'll have to take a look at the results. So modify LLM logic to detect background color change requests. Modify the API route. Add state management for background color in the main page. Create a mechanism to communicate background color changes. Now I need to modify the main page component. I'm not going to read through all this. Now it says, now check if your app has memory or not. Try asking the same question. Do you know who I am? So yeah, I'm not sure how that works. Like if I refresh, does the whole chat context get lost? That's a good question. For me, in my app, I have it saving all the messages in a database so that the context doesn't get lost. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, sometimes I'm on a Windows environment, so it tries to run this stuff. It gets a pain in the ass and it screws it up. So now it's launched its own terminal. So what I'm going to do is, this is the original one. I'm going to end that. I don't want it to build. It's just stop. I don't want it to npm run build. So I'm just going to stop that. We don't know, you need to try to build this for production or anything. npm run dev is the one we want to use. Okay. So now click to focus. It's running on 3001. Let's open that up. All right. So let's see what it says. Added is background. So I'm going to say, hi, who am I? Just for the fun of it. You're a unique individual with your own thoughts, experiences, and perspectives. Oh. Alrighty. All right. I'm going to tell it to change the background color. Oh, look at that. That's kind of weird. It has this wrapped in this. I don't like that. But look at that. Let's do it again. Is it smart enough for me to be like change the BG color? Oh, okay. That's kind of weird. Can you change the background color of this app? It did that. Change the BG color. Okay, so what we would want to do is then reprompt the LLM to be like, you know, if they say BG, that's an acronym for background, so on and so forth. This kind of shows you, though, how you can build, you know, UI interactions and logic within your app, which is freaking cool. One last thing we'll do for the fun of it is get this little expand icon working. So what I'll do is say, oh, by the way, we just integrated a feature. So what are we going to do? Oh, I think I forgot the get add all process. So what I'll do is come into one of these on unactive terminals and be like get add all, get commit -m. Message is you want to be, you know, explicit in your message. I created background color change feature in chat, get push. There we go. Come back over here and we can say update cursor.md file with the new feature. Send that. It's going to update it. And then we'll clear the chat. And then we're going to ask it to do one final feature. Yeah, Nano Banana is very cool. I'm going to be using it as a part of that YouTube service that I showed you. Waiting for this to finish. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and clear it, be quiet. We don't need to see its response. And now I can finally say, and again, we need to make sure we have the proper context. So I could say expand icon, but it doesn't know that there's an expand icon there. I don't know. Control-Shift-I, select this. And I could say, let's see here. Where's the button? It's right there. Okay. I'll just print screen this. Has the cursor there already. Paste that in. And I can say, let's see here. When a user clicks on this SVG icon, the expand icon, I adjust the chat layout so that it expands the full width and height of the viewport. If they click it again, click it once more, it will revert back to the original state. Now we could do things like add a CSS transition animation of 0.7 seconds with easing during the layout changes when a user clicks the expand icon, expand or collapse icon. And we'll find out if this is enough context for that feature to work. So now I'm going to go back. We're going to wait for it. This will be the last feature, like I said. I hate the placement of this. Again, that's stuff that we could fix thereafter, and this tiny weird looking button. But we're very close. I could try clicking on it now. Nope, doesn't work yet. It's still working. No, I hate how it tries to run these damn dev servers automatically. I should put that in cursor. For me, I hate when it tries to manually run dev servers. I don't like that. And I can just close that out. You could pass in your own context, manually for it to do that. But in the cursor MD file, I could explicitly say, don't run npm run dev or npm run build. I will run those I will run those manually. You could do that for sure. But let's see if it actually worked. Okay. So why didn't that work? It's doing something, right? But it's not. And it's probably because it's encased inside of this area. So what I can say, and this is where it's really helpful to have knowledge of front-end development, meaning HTML and CSS. Why it's likely happening here is it's not transitioning this element to a position absolute element. So what I'll say is when a user expands the chat window, make sure that the chat container is transitioned to a position absolute element. Right now, when expand is clicked, it's not expanding the entire width of the viewport. Attached a screenshot. Okay, so now we can just kind of pass that screenshot in as context, what that looks like in expand mode. And we'll see if that fix works. So it becomes an iterative process across all these features, as most of you know. And you have to be willing to go back and forth with the LLM. Now I know already. Let's refresh this. I already know what the issue is. So what I can say is, you need to, let me zoom up. Also set the position absolute element to the very upper left corner of the viewport. And so this would be top left values in position property. Because if you don't, in CSS, if you don't specify on a position absolute element, top and left values of 0, then it's going to put it kind of wherever it wants. So hopefully, it's still not working. Interesting. Well, what I'll do is pass that along as context. All right, so here's a follow-up prompt. Should work this time. Now we're running into issues. All right, so now you can get out the dev inspector. Of course, the very last feature is going to be a pain in my ass. That's just the nature of this vibe coding crap. Let's see here. What's happening? Sometimes I'll put in my own rule sets to kind of element style dub. Where is position absolute? Looking at this. So right here, all these classes, this is Tailwind stuff. So minimum height screen with full flex. Very interesting. I'm wondering why this is happening. Minimum height. Oh. Hold on. I think it's this element that needs to be the actual element that has position absolute. So I think it's placing it on the wrong. No. Oh, come on, Gary. That's not working. Okay, so it is this overall element. Looking at the chat to see if anybody has help. What is happening? This is so dumb. It's a very simple request, but it has this massive amount of BS, and it might have to, let me see, something to do with. I'm going to pass in all of this context. The element selected is the chat container. And then what you can do, if it still is not working with Claude, we'll reprompt it with a different model. Like this person said, try GTP5. And now it's actually broken. Let me rewrite this for more cleanly with a simpler approach. Okay, so hopefully it's going to fix the issue. You piece of junk, dude. So, okay, instead of just adding another prompt, what we can do is click this up here. There's a little revert button. So restore checkpoint, which means anything that it did, any code changes, it's going to go back, hit continue. And then we're going to change this to GPT-5. And we'll try GPT-5. Retry. Oh. Hey, it's working right now. Or wait, was that like an old one? Yeah, there we go. So now it's going to think a little bit more. It's a better model. Our goal is just to get this thing to expand the entire container, just, you know, just to show a feature. Stupid me for trying to get that to work, right? But no, this is kind of just shows you this is the process of, you know, AI-based coding. Now, of course, do we call this vibe coding? I mean, I designed everything from scratch and now we're interfacing with it. But, you know, I'm going to do a video here soon about vibe coding, the term. I hate the term vibe coding because if you think about it, vibe means emotion. Coding is not emotion. It's the antithesis of motion, right? Ah, there it goes. It kind of worked. This part's broken. We could fix that thereafter, but let's try to do that. It's kind of cool. It's not perfect, but at least it's working a little bit more close in terms of what I wanted. What's up? And of course, we would probably want to fix, you know, styling issues, but now we actually have our chat. It's kind of broke, like I said, with the avatar not centering properly because I didn't set that up right. But this is now kind of working like we wanted. And again, such an iterative process when you're trying to get this stuff to work correctly. Change the background. So as you can see, it has a background here. We would want to get rid of that. Very, very cool. All right. So we don't need to really see that. So what I would do after that feature, again, we would get add all, send it off to GitHub, ask Cursor to update the cursor.md file with updates, and then clear the chat and then work on the next feature. So that's typically how I handle things. And we're about 2 hours in, you know, creating an AI powered app. And of course, You could have done that much faster if we didn't do the initial 50-minute process of custom design in Figma. But because I'm a designer, I wanted to include that process. There's a lot to learn there in that regard. So now, boy, this thing is still working. ChatGPT 5 is just nuts. So yeah, I just wanted to do that. A real quick live, not real quick, it's like 2 hours, but a live vibe coding, a little session here mixed with hand-driven skills. And just to show you how far you can get with these tools. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a fan of vibe coding, but not in the sense of the terminology of the word. I hate the terminology vibe coding, but I like AI coding. Vibe coding is like, it works initially when you're just like, you know, I'm vibing, man. I don't know what the hell's happening. But the reason a lot of people have the gripe of, oh, AI can't handle complex projects coming from non-technical vibe coders, they're wrong. They're wrong because if you go into the mentality of creating an app with this feel good, emotional, you know, I'm going to operate based on my emotional state, right? And like just kind of do whatever and not care about, you know, structure, architecture, scaffolding because I don't know enough about it. Well, what ends up happening is you're building a house with a shit foundation, right? So when you build a house with a crap foundation, it'll start working. It'll work initially when you start building things, you're adding floors and walls and stuff. But once you start to add more features, right? Trying to create an analogy here. When you start to build, you know, you start adding like multiple levels of the house. Well, it starts to crumble. You start to see issues. And that's because you went into your vibe coding process without much thought. All right. So you don't want to ever vibe it. You don't, and I'm also saying you don't have to learn hand coding skills from scratch. Having a general understanding, a high level understanding so that you can speak the architectural language and you can think things out systematically. Because I guess you can see, like when I started this project, I didn't try to one shot it. We entered a bunch of different prompts to get to where we got, right? That's how you have to think. That's the opposite of vibe, in my opinion. When I think about vibing, I'm thinking like hippies, you know, just feel good, emotional states. You don't want that when it comes to code, which is opposite, structured, logical, right? So that's why I don't like the term vibe coding. I do like AI coding. You can see I use it here myself. It's great. So anyway, that's enough of that. We're just about at 2 hours. I think this is a good spot to stop. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and X, wherever you're watching this, Twitch, whatever, because I have a lot more of these coming. I think I'm going to do more streams now. It's kind of tough to create individual YouTube videos that are being uploaded, you know, at 3 to 4 times a week. I think I like doing off the cuff stuff like this. But yeah, look out for the video tomorrow because we're using Replit. And that's a regular video to be uploaded, I'll probably upload around 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I actually build an app for my wife's business. She's a lactation consultant. She works in the medical industry, and it kind of, and like one of the things that she was troubles that she was facing is she lets people create user messages, or not. She lets them create or ask her questions through a chat portal. And a lot of the questions are the same damn questions every time, right? So I was like, why don't we build an AI chat system with Replit? So completely no code, no design as well. It handles everything. And users can log in, her patients can log in and ask questions. And it takes the RAG approach where my wife can enter like questions people might ask in a backend and then give her preferred answers. And then when a user asks a question that exists in her database, the AI checks that first, gives her answer if it finds one, but if not, it falls back to an AI response with a little disclaimer like this is AI generated. You can ask Stephanie, you know, if you want her response. So you can do really cool stuff like that, especially with tools like Replit. And that's tomorrow's video. That is enough for me. It was cool hanging out, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye.